He's offside.
Offside!
Hey, ref, he's offside.
Have you ever been at a soccer game and screamed, "Offsides"? If so, please watch this video. In this quick lesson, you will learn what offside in soccer really is, and when you should be screaming it, and when you shouldn't. First off, the rule is called offside, not offsides. So lose the S at the end, and you're a big step closer to sounding like you know what's going on. To actually know what's going on, let's learn the rule. Football has an offside rule, as do lacrosse and hockey and other sports. But these are nothing like soccer's offside rule. In soccer, it is defined by law number 11 from the laws of the game. I'll paraphrase. A player is in an offside position if they are in the opponent's half of the field and closer to the opponent's goal line than both the ball and the second last opponent. So let's look at the field. We have the green team on defense and the red team on offense. To keep it simple, we will show the green team's goalie and two green defenders. For the red team, we'll just have two attacking players. If we break down the rule, what makes a player in an offside position? Well, they have to be in the opponent's half of the field. So the red team cannot be in an offside position here. It can only happen here on this half. Easy enough. They also need to be closer to the opponent's goal line than both the ball and the second last opponent player. So we need to start with finding three things. The goal line is here, and the ball is here. Where is the second last opponent player? Since the goalie will almost always be really close to the goal line, they are the last opponent player. The second last opponent player is the next closest player to the goal line, this defender. Now, we need to imagine an area that we'll call the offside zone. It starts on the goal line and goes all the way to the second last opponent player, or the ball, whichever comes first. Since the second last opponent player comes first, they represent the end of the offside zone. If the ball moves to this location, now it is closer to the goal line than the second last opponent player, so the ball defines the end of the offside zone. Looking at this scenario, is the red team in an offside position? No, because the red player is not closer to the opponent's goal line than both the ball and the second last opponent player. They are closer than the ball, but not the ball and the second last opponent. What about now? This is still not in an offside position because, although the red player is closer to the goal line than the second last opponent, they are not closer than the second last opponent and the ball. In this situation, the ball defines the end of the offside zone. How about this setup? Is this red player in an offside position? Yes, they are. They are closer to the goal line than both the ball and the second last opponent. This player is in an offside position. Should we scream at the ref to let them know? No, we should not, because this is perfectly legal. You heard me right. It is not against the rules of soccer for a player to be in an offside position. Say it with me. It is not against the rules of soccer for a player to be in an offside position. Where the rule becomes a penalty is with what happens next. If a player is in an offside position and does one of two things, either they become involved in active play, such as if they touch the ball, or if they interfere with an opponent. If they do either of these, then there is an offside offense, and the ref should blow the whistle. There is one exception to this rule, sort of. Here we have the red team with the ball. All red players are onside, right? As soon as this ball is kicked and on its way forward, this other red player can move into what looks like an offside position. As long as they were onside when the ball was kicked and is on its way, they can move ahead of the second last opponent. Offside is a very tricky rule to enforce for three key reasons. For one, the scenario we just showed you relies on the referee seeing two things at once. One, when the ball was kicked, and two, when a player moved into what was the offside zone. Second, the imaginary offside zone can be difficult to see for a referee who is not on the sideline. In professional soccer, there are referees whose job it is to run up and back, watching for offside violations. But for youth sports, there is often one referee, and they are most likely in the center of the field, making it hard to see the imaginary offside line. Lastly is this scenario. The red team has one player in an offside position, as you see here. Their teammate carries the ball up the field and scores. The player who was in an offside position never touched the ball, so they very likely did not deserve a penalty. It all depends on whether the offside player was involved in the active play or interfered with an opponent. Maybe the offside player caused a defender to stay closer to them. This would be active involvement in the play. Maybe the offside player stood in the way of the goalie. This would be interfering with the opponent, and the referee has to make this ruling all while watching the ball carrier, the defenders, the goalie, etc. Now you know, just because a player is standing in an offside position does not mean that they are breaking the rules. And even if their team scores, they may not have been involved in the play at all, and therefore not deserving of a penalty. Regardless of what you see, remember that the ref makes the calls, and calling offside penalties is not easy. Lastly, these rules may be modified for youth sports for younger players, and also they don't apply to indoor soccer. Now you know.